So the other day I was watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, which happens far more often than I care to admit, and I was just appreciating how dirty and dusty and beat up and scuzzy the truck they were driving, the famous truck chase scene was. And I went to look at my Hasbro version, and the sculpting, while not like 100% accurate, is pretty much dead on. But the paint apps are very limited. They've done some nice things like adding some German text and stuff throughout, but it's way too clean. So this week on No Scale Customs, I'm going to show you how to make your Indiana Jones truck more weathered and beat up. Now before you start, you need some good references. I like to find pictures of all the different sides of the vehicle. What I did was I looked through my various Indiana Jones books, and most importantly, I just simply watched the movie and paused it. And that way I could put all the dirt and grime exactly where it belongs, and the kind of colors and patterns that you see in the movie. Next step is to go on and get the appropriate colors. I chose 3 here. One is Caramel Candy. All right, this is by Apple Barrel. And I might be hard to find some of these. I'm a very garage sale-y sort of person. Is that a word? And I bought all these at garage sales. But you can find colors similar to these pretty easily at perhaps Joann's, Michael's, AC Moore, or any other hobby shop. So I have a tan here, and some tans get to be maybe too creamy. This is a nice grayish sort of sandy tan, and actually the last one is called Flesh. I consider it kind of like a beigey color. It's not really like a peach color. And what I do is I apply them. Actually, I've been using this whole time just the same brush. I like a nice angled brush because it allows me to get into finer spaces. Okay, but this one's not really that perfect of a brush, which I like also because a lot of what I'm going to be doing is stippling colors on. Now, as I'm working, I like to start with the Caramel Candy, and I as you can see here, I've layered that on first in a lot of different areas. Looking at my references for the front of the truck, the Caramel Candy's been applied. You can see it's on the lights. It's on this little bar here that hangs off the side. You can see it on the license plate. And then I alternately layered some tan and flesh over top of that, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So like I said, I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to dip it in the Caramel Candy color first, okay? And you don't really want a lot of paint. In fact, just about every time I paint, I wipe it off a little bit. I have a little paper towel handy, and I wipe it off, okay, before I apply it. And part of the reason you're painting this is to make it look weathered, and the weathering kind of follows the body of the car or the vehicle. So you'll see it at corners, at edges. That's where you get a lot of the weathering. Okay, so I'm kind of treating this part, this Caramel Candy color as like a rust, and then the other ones I'm going to treat as kind of like a sand. So you can see I'm just kind of dabbing it on there. Okay. In my references, you see there's a lot of wear and tear over here by these side grill things. Okay, and I'm using a very dry brush, barely any paint on it, and what that does is it lets my paint just rest on the surface. Now, some areas of this you're going to want paint in the cracks, and some areas you're going to want paint on the surface. It just kind of depends on what it is. I tried to get, because I kind of thought that this groove right here was a natural spot for there to be sand just kind of sitting in there. I painted that first, and then I wiped it off to leave just a little bit of beige in the cracks. This, however, just based on the movie, it looks like the the edges get a lot of rust on them. Okay. Now, if you ever overdo it while it's wet, you can wipe it off if you need to. You can scratch at it. And there's some areas of this where I'm just going to leave it this color only. I'm not going to put any more colors on it. And then there's other areas where I'm going to put a few of the other colors layered on top. One thing I noticed in the movie, the inside of the tire well here was really, really light. So I'm actually going to I'm still going to put a little bit of this brown on there, but that's an area where I'm going to make it really light. So I'm actually putting a lot of the brown on, covering up that green. And because it's you're not like painting details exactly, so if you notice, I'm getting a little bit of this paint on the tire, not just on the metal rim, and that's like totally fine. Okay. Some things you'll notice about the sculpt, this is not really what the texture of the wheels really are in the movie, but that's okay. I like the way it looks, so I'm going to enhance it a little bit. I kind of overdid it there, so just wipe it off. Now I'm going to try putting some of that tan in there. And you can do this while it's wet, or you can wait and do it while it's dry. So really, I'm just looking for areas. I'm looking at these photo references and seeing, okay, where is it light? Okay, how does the texture of the vehicle show up? Okay, and basically the rule is this, where if you want raised surfaces to be lighter, you use a drier brush. If you want the groove surfaces to be brighter color, the tan or the sand, then you're going to use a wetter brush and you're going to wipe off spaces. Okay, I'm going to try that right here. I'll do that for this little step right here, because it would make sense for the sand and stuff to settle into that. So I'm painting it on there. Okay. Then I'm just going to use my paper towel. Just wipe that surface so the sand sits on the inside of the grooves there. Okay. This could also be achieved by getting your paint really wet. Okay, then it would just sit in the grooves. Okay, in the movie, this section of the truck doesn't have a lot of weathering on it. You want to put a little bit on there. So I'm making sure my brush is extra dry, and I'm going against the grain, and that's helping it pick up the edges. Okay, so basically you have details going horizontally. So if you paint vertically, you'll pick up those corners. Okay, and then here where you get a little interruption, a vertical interruption, just right there, I'm going to paint horizontally. Get that little surface to show up. Here's the stippling effect that I was talking about. I kind of just take the brush, wipe off most of the paint, and if you look, the brush tip is not too crisp. Okay, it's got hairs sticking out in every direction, and that's just fine. That's what you want. Okay, and I do most of my stippling on the front of the truck. If you watch the movie, it kind of feels like the sides are a little more wind-blown looking and have longer streaks, but I felt like the details in the front kind of looked like little stippling dots. I feel like that gets across the rust and dirt combo that's going on here. So now I added some lighter tones. Okay, and I gotta tell you, I always feel like when I'm doing this, I'm like, oh man, I'm overdoing it, and I'm a little nervous with each brush stroke I take. But when you step back a minute and you look at the whole thing as a whole, it does look pretty darn cool. One thing that people are often nervous about is painting on the glass. I don't know why, it just seems different, like you can never get it back. But it's actually pretty easy. I kind of wait till my brush has barely anything on it, and I put some of that paint, you can see I already did a little bit in those corners. And what's nice is if you mess up with the paint on the glass, it just wipes right off. Again, putting paint at edges and corners, maybe a couple little streaks in the bare spots. But you want to leave some of that army green showing through. So here's some time lapse of me painting the truck. You can see I start with the caramel, then I add the taupe and the sand color over top of that. I take some time and lighten up those wheel wells, make them a little bit brighter, full of kind of sand there. And at the end I add just the tiniest little bit of weathering to the canopy. So here's the finished product, folks. If you try this at home, please let me know how it turned out for you in the comments below. And like and subscribe to see other easy and no skill customs that you can try.